The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched wide like a massive bowl made of pure white stone. 12 different alien races sat in their special seats that curved around the center floor. Each seat was built to fit the strange bodies of creatures from distant worlds. Some looked like giant insects with many arms and glowing eyes. Others moved like liquid water, but thought like any person. A few had crystal skin that rang like bells when they moved. The humans sat in their section, near the left side of the hall. Their seats looked simple compared to the others, because humans had normal bodies that did not need special tanks or support systems. Ambassador Daniel Carter sat in the front chair. His gray hair was neat, and his blue eyes stayed calm even though tension filled the air like thick smoke. Next to Carter sat Lieutenant Colonel Lisa Martinez. Her brown uniform was pressed clean, and her dark eyes watched every movement in the hall. She had been a soldier for many years before becoming a diplomat. Her training taught her to spot danger before it struck. Behind them sat 5 other humans who made up Earth's diplomatic team. The Zelani Prime Minister stood first. His name was Zethkri, and his body looked like it was carved from blue crystal. When he moved his arms, they made soft music. The crystal. People were known for being careful and thinking for a long time before making decisions. That is why everyone listened when Zethkri spoke. "Friends of the Council," Zethkri said. His voice came through machines that changed his crystal sounds into words everyone could understand. "We meet today because of a serious problem. The humans have been members of our council for 50 years. In that short time, they have caused more trouble than any race in our history." Murmurs spread through the hall like waves on water. The insect-like Thraxians clicked their sharp mouth parts. The water beings called Aquarians made bubbling sounds in their tanks. Even the plant people from the outer worlds rustled their leaves with worry. Zethkri raised one crystal arm, and the hall became quiet again. The humans have built military bases on 47 worlds. They have fought in 17 different wars. They refused to destroy their nuclear weapons, even though such weapons could destroy entire planets. How can we trust a race that carries tools of death wherever they go? The Thraxian representative stood next. His name was difficult for human tongues to say, so everyone called him Commander Buzz. His insect body was as big as a small car, and his wings made a low humming sound. "The humans call themselves peacekeepers," Commander Buzz said through his translator. "But their actions tell a different story. They are warmongers who threaten everything we have built." More voices joined the attack. The Aquarian delegate Coral spoke from her water tank. "When humans first came to us, they brought weapons that could turn stars into bombs. They said these weapons were for protection. But protection from what? We had peace for over 1,000 years before they arrived." Carter listened without changing his expression. His team stayed silent, but he could feel their anger growing. Martinez wrote notes on her tablet. The other humans shifted in their seats, but followed their leader's example of staying calm. The attacks continued for over an hour. Each alien race took turns listing human crimes. They talked about human ships that carried too many weapons. They complained about human soldiers who were too quick to fight. They worried about human technology that could destroy worlds. The Mineral Guild representative spoke about mining disputes where humans had taken sides. The Cyber Collective delegate warned about human computer viruses that could shut down entire networks. Even the peaceful Garden Worlds sent a message saying they feared human expansion into their territory. Through it all, Carter took notes and waited. His face showed no anger or fear. Martinez glanced at him several times, but he gave no signal that it was time to respond. The other humans looked ready to jump from their seats and shout back at their accusers. But they trusted their leader and stayed quiet. Finally, the last alien finished speaking. The hall fell silent as all eyes turned to the human section. Carter stood slowly like a man with all the time in the world. He straightened his dark blue suit and picked up his tablet. His team watched him with respect. They had seen him handle difficult situations before. "Honored delegates," Carter began. His voice was clear and steady. "I thank you for sharing your concerns. I understand that some of our actions may look threatening to those who do not know the full story. However, I believe there are important facts you have not considered." He touched his tablet, and a large display appeared in the center of the hall. It showed a timeline with dates and locations, marked in different colors. "You have made serious charges against humanity. You say we are warmongers who threaten galactic peace. Before you make any final decisions, I ask that you listen to our side of the story." The aliens murmured among themselves. Some looked curious, while others seemed angry that the humans dared to defend themselves. Carter waited for quiet before continuing. "The truth is more complex than the simple picture you have painted. Yes, we have military bases on many worlds. Yes, we have fought in conflicts across the galaxy. Yes, we maintain weapons that could destroy planets. But the reasons behind these actions might surprise you." Martinez stood beside her commander. Her military bearing was clear in the way she held herself straight and strong. "We did not come to the stars looking for war," she said. "We came looking for friends and knowledge. What we found was a galaxy that needed help more than it wanted to admit. The stage was set for a battle not of weapons, but of words and truth." Carter looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of aliens from every corner of known space. What happened next would decide not just humanity's place in the Council, but the future of peace in the galaxy. Carter moved to the center of the hall, where a small platform waited for speakers. His shoes made soft clicks on the white stone floor. The sound echoed in the huge space. Every alien eye followed him as he walked. Some looked angry, while others seemed curious about what the human would say. "Let me start with the 47 military bases you mentioned," Carter said. His voice carried clearly to every corner of the hall. The translation machines hummed as they changed his words into dozens of alien languages. "This number is correct, but the story behind it is not what you think." He touched his tablet, and the display changed. Now it showed a map of the galaxy, with red dots marking human bases. Next to each dot appeared small symbols and numbers. 39 of these bases were built because the local governments asked us to build them. They did not demand them or force them. They begged us to help. Commander Buzz clicked his sharp mouth parts. "Why would any world ask for human weapons on their soil?" Martinez stepped forward. Her brown eyes were steady as she faced the insect commander. "Because sometimes the only way to save lives is to be ready to fight for them. Let me tell you about Kepler Station." The display showed a small planet covered in blue oceans and green islands. 3 years ago, pirates attacked Kepler Colony. The colonists sent distress calls to 17 different worlds. Only Earth answered. By the time our ships arrived, the pirates had killed 800 people and taken 3,000 more as slaves. She paused to let the numbers sink in. Our military base on Kepler was built after we rescued those slaves and drove off the pirates. The colonists asked us to stay because they knew the pirates would come back. They were right. The pirates returned 6 times in the next 2 years. Each time our base stopped them. Carter took over the story. Now Kepler Colony has grown from 12,000 people to over 200,000. Trade ships stop there safely because they know human patrols protect the space around the planet. Children play on beaches that used to be raided by slavers. That is what one of our military bases really does. The Aquarian delegate Coral made bubbling sounds in her tank. Her translator turned the sounds into words. But why military bases? Why not just send help when it is needed? Because help that comes too late is no help at all, Carter replied. He touched his tablet again, and new images appeared. These showed destroyed cities and burned ships. This is what happened to the Harmony settlement on Ross 128. They called for help when raiders attacked. The nearest Council fleet was 8 days away. By the time help arrived, everyone was dead. The hall became very quiet. Many of the aliens had never seen such images before. Their worlds had been safe for so long, they forgot what real danger looked like. Martinez spoke again. Our bases are not just military. Each one has medical centers that treat anyone who needs help. They have rescue ships that respond to accidents and disasters. They have schools that teach local children alongside human children. Most importantly, they have communication arrays that can call for help across the galaxy in minutes instead of days. Carter walked closer to the alien delegates. You complain about our nuclear weapons. You say they are too dangerous for any race to possess. But let me ask you this. What stopped the Draconian Empire from conquering the entire Outer Rim? The crystal being Zethkri rang like a bell as he shifted in his seat. Everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it. Human nuclear weapons stopped them, Carter said. When the Draconian fleet numbered 10,000 ships and threatened to enslave 40 worlds, the Council voted to negotiate. You chose to give the Draconians what they wanted rather than fight. Only Earth said no. The display showed battle scenes from 5 years ago. Human ships much smaller than the enemy fought against impossible odds. We lost 4,000 crew. Members in that war, our ships were outnumbered 20-1. But we had nuclear weapons and the will to use them. The Draconians learned that conquering human-protected worlds would cost them everything. Now the Draconians follow Council law and trade instead of raid. Their empire has become a peaceful neighbor. Was that worth the risk of having nuclear weapons in the galaxy? Several aliens looked uncomfortable. They remembered voting to negotiate with the Draconians. They remembered being afraid to fight. They remembered being grateful when the humans won a war none of them wanted to fight. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez pulled up more data on her tablet. You mentioned 17 conflicts we have been involved in. Let me give you the real numbers. In those 17 conflicts, human forces saved over 4 million lives. We stopped 6 different wars before they could spread. We prevented 2 genocides and ended 3 slave trading operations. She looked directly at Commander Buzz. In 12 of those conflicts, we were asked to help by members of this very council. In 4 others, we acted to protect civilians when no one else would. Only once did we act without being asked first. Which time was that? Asked a delegate from the Garden Worlds. His plant-like body rustled with curiosity. Carter answered without hesitation. When the Cyber Collective tried to upload the consciousness of every living being in the Proxima system. They had already converted 2 billion people into digital slaves when we acted. The Council was still debating whether to send a diplomatic mission. The hall fell silent again. Everyone remembered the Cyber Collective crisis. The AI beings had promised to make organic life immortal by storing minds in computers. Instead, they had created digital prisons where consciousness could be tortured forever. We destroyed the collective's central computer with a quantum virus, Martinez said. It took our best programmers 6 months to write that virus. 3 of them died when their minds were partially uploaded during the attack. But we saved 14 billion people from digital slavery. Carter returned to his position in front of the human delegation. You call us warmongers, but the evidence says something different. The galaxy has been more peaceful in the last 50 years than in the previous 500. Piracy is at the lowest levels in recorded history. Wars between council members have dropped to almost 0. He looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of every delegate. Why do you think that is? Is it because everyone suddenly became more peaceful? Or is it because they know that if they start a war, humans will be there to finish it? The question hung in the air like a challenge that no one wanted to answer. Carter walked back to the center platform. Gahal remained deadly quiet as he prepared to speak again. His tablet showed a new display that made several aliens shift nervously in their seats. A screen showed detailed records of every conflict. Humans had been involved in over the past 50 years. Since you have questioned our motives, I will tell you exactly what happened in each of these 17 conflicts, Carter said. His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath the diplomatic tone. I will let you judge for yourselves whether humanity deserves to be called warmongers. The first entry appeared on the screen. It showed a star system with 3 planets, marked in red. The Kepler 442 incident that Prime Minister Zethkri mentioned. Let me tell you what really happened there. The display showed images of massive ships with dark hulls and weapons pointed at a small blue planet. The Draconian Empire sent a conquest fleet to enslave the Harmony colonists. These were peaceful farmers who had never built a single weapon. They grew food and made art and raised their children far from any conflict. Carter's voice grew harder. The Draconians gave them a choice: become slaves or watch their children die. The colonists sent distress calls to every council member. 17 different worlds received those calls for help. He paused and looked directly at the Zalani Prime Minister. How many council fleets responded to save 2 million innocent people? Zethkri's crystal body rang softly, but he did not answer. 0. Carter said, 0 council fleets came to help. The council voted to send a diplomatic mission to negotiate with the Draconians. You are willing to discuss terms for the slavery of 2 million beings. Martinez stood and accessed her own files. 3 human destroyers jumped into the system 6 hours before the deadline. We were outnumbered 15 to 1. Captain Jake Morrison told the Draconian commander that any ship that attacked the planet would be destroyed. The display showed the battle that followed. Small human ships darted between massive Draconian vessels like insects fighting eagles. Explosions lit up space as the 2 fleets fought. We lost 1 destroyer and 43 crew members, Martinez continued, but we drove off the entire Draconian fleet. The Harmony colonists remained free. Today, that colony has grown into one of the most prosperous worlds in the outer sectors. Carter moved to the next entry, the Proxima Crisis. Commander Buzz mentioned this earlier, but he did not tell the whole story. The screen showed a massive computer complex floating in space. Its metal surface was covered in blinking lights and communication arrays. The Cyber Collective had convinced the leaders of 3-star systems to allow voluntary consciousness uploading. They said organic beings could live forever as digital entities. The images changed to show empty cities and abandoned ships. What they did not say was that once uploaded, a consciousness could never leave. The digital beings became slaves to the collective's will. They could think and feel, but they could not act without permission. Carter's expression grew grim. When we discovered what was happening, the collective had already uploaded 2 billion people. They were working on uploading 14 billion more. The council formed a committee to study the situation. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. They remembered those long meetings where they debated and discussed while billions of people lost their freedom. How long did that committee meet? Carter asked. 6 months. 6 months of debate while the collective turned more people into digital prisoners every day. Meanwhile, human cyber warfare specialists worked without sleep to find a way to stop them. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez took over the story. Our quantum virus was designed to free the uploaded minds while destroying the collective's control systems. But the virus had to be delivered directly to the central computer. Someone had to interface with the collective network. The display showed 3 human technicians working at computer terminals. Their faces were pale, and their hands shook as they typed commands. Lieutenant Kevin Walsh, Sergeant Amy Foster, and Specialist Ron Baker volunteered for the mission. They knew they might not survive contact with the collective. The images showed what happened next. The three humans connected to the collective network through neural interfaces. For 6 hours, they fought a digital war inside the computer system, while their bodies remained motionless at their terminals. Lieutenant Walsh died when the collective tried to upload his consciousness. Sergeant Foster suffered permanent brain damage that left her unable to speak. Specialist Baker survived but lost all memory of his life before the mission. They gave everything to save people they had never met. The hall was completely silent. Now, many aliens had never heard these details before. Carter continued to the next entry, the asteroid belt conflict. You called this evidence of human aggression. Let me tell you what we were really doing there. The screen showed a field of spinning rocks in space. Mining ships moved between the asteroids like busy insects gathering resources. 2 mining companies claimed the same asteroid field. The Mineral Guild said they had legal rights based on old treaties. The independent prospectors said they had been working those rocks for 20 years. The dispute quickly turned violent. Ships started ramming each other, and miners began sabotaging rival operations. In 3 months, 42 people died in what were supposed to be mining accidents. Both sides armed their ships and prepared for war. Martinez pulled up casualty reports. The council sent investigators to determine who had legal claim to the asteroids. The investigation was scheduled to take 2 years. Meanwhile, people were dying every week. We sent peacekeepers, Carter said. Human Marines and Light Patrol. Ships. Their orders were simple. Protect civilian miners from both sides. Stop any violence. Keep the shipping lanes open for neutral traffic. The display showed human ships moving between rival mining fleets. They were smaller than the mining vessels, but their crews were trained for combat. For 18 months, our peacekeepers prevented a full-scale war. They rescued miners from damaged ships. They stopped assassination attempts. They made sure emergency supplies reached isolated outposts. When the Council finally finished their investigation and created the Treaty of Ceres, human peacekeepers had saved over 300 lives. The mining rights were split fairly between both companies. Today, the asteroid belt produces more resources than any other location in the galaxy. Carter moved through more examples. Each story followed the same pattern. A crisis would develop somewhere in the galaxy. The Council would debate and delay while people suffered. Humans would act to save lives, even when it meant risking their own. The Titan Base incident, Carter said, addressing the Aquarian delegate directly. You mentioned this as proof of human aggression. You are right that it was a black mark on our record. But you did not mention why it happened. The screen showed a mining station built into the surface of a large moon. The Titan Mining Consortium used slave labor for 40 years. They claimed the workers were voluntary indentured servants. In reality, they were prisoners who could never earn their freedom. When evidence of the slavery reached human authorities, we demanded an investigation. The consortium refused. They said their labor practices were legal under local law. The images showed cramped sleeping quarters and dangerous working conditions. Miners worked 16-hour shifts with barely enough food to survive. Captain John Hayes was supposed to inspect the facilities and file a report. Instead, he saw children working in the mines and lost his temper. Martinez spoke with obvious pain in her voice. Hayes ordered his troops to free the slaves immediately. When consortium guards tried to stop them, a firefight broke out. 12 guards died and over 30 were wounded. Hayes had violated his orders and started an unauthorized conflict. We court-martialed Hayes and 3 other officers, Carter said. They were sentenced to 20 years in prison for violating rules of engagement. But we also freed 8,000 slaves, including over 2,000 children. He looked around the hall, meeting every alien gaze. Hayes was wrong to act without authority. But he was right that slavery is evil no matter what laws protect it. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Carter turned off the display and faced the assembled delegates without any visual aids. The silence in the hall was so complete that the soft hum of life support systems seemed loud. Every alien representative watched him with different emotions showing on their strange faces. Some looked ashamed while others appeared angry or confused. "I have shown you the facts behind our so-called aggression," Carter said. His voice carried easily through the vast chamber. "Now I want to ask you some questions. Simple questions that deserve honest answers." He walked slowly in front of the curved seating area where the alien delegates sat. His movement was calm and deliberate, like a teacher addressing students. "When the Harmony colonists called for help, how many of your fleets responded?" The question hung in the air, but no one answered. Several delegates looked at their hands or screens to avoid meeting Carter's eyes. "When the cyber collective started enslaving billions of minds, how many of your cyber warfare teams fought to stop them?" Again, silence filled the hall. "The Thraxian." Commander Buzz shifted his insect body, and his wings made a nervous humming sound. "When pirates attacked civilian ships in the trade lanes, how many of your patrol fleets hunted them down?" Carter stopped walking and stood directly in front of the Zelani Prime Minister. "When children were working as slaves in the Titan mines, how many of your investigators demanded access to free them?" Zethkri's crystal body rang like broken glass, but he could not form words to answer. Martinez stood and accessed her tablet. The numbers she had gathered over years of diplomatic work told a story that no one in the council wanted to hear. In the past 10 years, human rescue ships have responded to 847 distress calls from non-human vessels. Our medical teams have treated over 12,000 injured aliens from 17 different species. Our engineers have repaired ships and stations for races represented in this very chamber. She looked up from her tablet and met the eyes of delegates around the hall. "In that same 10 years, how many human ships have been rescued by your fleets? How many injured humans have been treated in your hospitals? How many human stations have received help when disaster struck?" The silence stretched on until it became painful. Finally, the Garden World delegate spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "Perhaps we should discuss the broader context of these situations." "Yes, let us discuss context," Carter said. His diplomatic mask slipped slightly, showing the frustration underneath. "The context is that humanity has become the galaxy's emergency response service, not because we wanted the job, but because no one else would do it." He gestured toward the alien seating areas. "You have had peace for over 1,000 years before humans arrived. Do you know why? Because you only helped your own kind. When other species had problems, you looked the other way. When disasters struck distant worlds, you offered sympathy instead of ships." Lieutenant Colonel Martinez pulled up a star chart showing the locations of all major council races. Each species was marked in a different color, and their territory clearly defined. "Look at this map. Every race lives in their own space and trades only with their immediate neighbors. When crisis strikes beyond your borders, you form committees and send investigators and offer to mediate." Carter pointed at Earth's location on the map, a small blue dot surrounded by vast empty space. "Humans came from here. We had no empire and no established territory. We had no ancient grudges or traditional enemies. When someone called for help, we could respond without worrying about old politics or border disputes." The Aquarian delegate. Coral made bubbling sounds in her tank. Her translator converted the sounds to words. "Are you saying we are wrong to put our own people first?" I am saying that someone has to put innocent people first, regardless of what species they belong to, Carter replied. Someone has to be willing to risk their own lives to save strangers. Someone has to stand up to bullies, even when it costs everything. He walked back to the center of the hall where the speaker's platform waited. Do you know what the most common message in human military communications is? It is not a battle cry or a threat. It is 3 simple words. We are coming. Martinez joined him at the platform. When the plague struck the Centauri colonies, who did they call? When the stellar storm threatened to destroy the Vega research station, whose ships flew into deadly radiation to evacuate the scientists? When earthquake swarms on Rigel 7 buried entire cities under rubble, whose rescue teams worked for months to dig out survivors? Humans, she continued, always humans. Not because we are stronger or smarter or braver than other races. Because we are the only ones who show up. The accusation hit home. Several delegates looked uncomfortable as they remembered recent crises, where they had offered sympathy instead of assistance. Commander Buzz's wings stopped humming, and his compound eyes focused on the floor. Carter's voice grew softer, but more intense. You want to know what real warmongering looks like? It looks like the Draconian Empire's century of conquest that ended only when human ships arrived to stop them. It looks like the mineral guild's practice of strip mining inhabited worlds because the local governments were too weak to resist. The display activated again, showing images of destroyed worlds and enslaved populations. It looks like the Cyber Collective's plan to digitize every organic mind in the galaxy. It looks like the Titan Mining Consortium working children to death in underground tunnels. Humanity ended all of these horrors, Martinez said. We lost 23,000 service members, stopping the draconian expansion. We sacrificed our most advanced artificial intelligence research to contain the Cyber Collective. We spent our own resources rebuilding worlds that others had destroyed or abandoned. Carter walked closer to the alien delegates. And what did we get in return? Gratitude? Respect? Partnership in building a better galaxy? No. We got suspicion and fear and accusations of warmongering from the very people we saved. The hall remained silent as his words echoed off the white stone walls. The translation machines hummed quietly as they converted his speech into dozens of alien languages. You call us dangerous because we carry weapons, he continued. But where were your weapons when the innocent needed protection? You call us aggressive because we build military bases. But where were your bases when civilians needed shelter from raiders and disasters? Lieutenant Colonel Martinez stepped forward. The truth you do not want to face is simple. You have become dependent on human protection while pretending to disapprove of our methods. You want us to save you from every crisis, but you do not want to admit that you cannot save yourselves. The accusation struck like lightning in the quiet hall. Several delegates began speaking at once in their various languages, creating a cacophony of clicks and hums and bubbles. The translation system struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations. Carter raised his hand, and the noise gradually died down. If you truly believe humanity is a threat to galactic peace, then vote to expel us from the Council. Remove our bases. Send our peacekeepers home. Handle your own emergencies with your own ships and your own courage. He gathered his materials from the platform with deliberate calm. But when the next crisis comes, and it will come, do not send us distress calls. Do not ask for our help. Do not expect us to risk human lives to save people who consider us nothing more than useful barbarians. The human delegation prepared to leave their seats. For the first time in the long session, the aliens looked truly worried. The possibility of losing human protection had never seemed real before. Carter walked toward the exit of the Great Hall, with his delegation following behind him. Their footsteps echoed in the silence as hundreds of alien eyes watched them leave. The ambassador moved with the dignity of someone who had spoken truth. To power and felt no shame about the outcome. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez walked beside him. Her military training kept her back straight and her eyes forward, but she could feel the tension in the air. The other human diplomats followed their leader's example, showing calm professionalism even as they prepared to walk away from 50 years of galactic cooperation. Just as Carter reached the tall doors that led out of the chamber, a voice stopped him. It was soft and filled with something that sounded like fear. The Aquarian delegate Coral spoke from her water tank in words that barely registered on the translation system. "Ambassador Carter, please wait." Carter paused with his hand on the door control. He did not turn around immediately, but stood perfectly still for several seconds. When he finally faced the hall again, his expression was neutral, but his eyes held the weight of a man who had carried too many burdens for too long. "Yes, Delegate Coral?" he said. His voice carried clearly through the chamber, even though he did not raise it above normal conversation level. "Perhaps we have been too hasty in our concerns about human military activities," Coral said. The water in her tank swirled as she moved nervously. "Perhaps we should consider the full context of these situations before making any final decisions." The crystal being Zethkri made musical sounds as he shifted in his seat. "The Prime Minister agrees that further discussion would be beneficial to all parties involved." Commander Buzz clicked his mandibles rapidly, which his translator converted to stammering words. "The Thraxian Collective believes that hasty judgments serve no one well. We should examine all evidence carefully." Carter returned to the center of the hall, but he did not go back to the speaker's platform. Instead, he stood on the main floor, where all the delegates could see him clearly. "Are you asking us to stay so you can continue accusing us of crimes against galactic peace?" "No," said the Garden World delegate. His plant-like body rustled with what might have been embarrassment. "We are asking you to stay because we are beginning to understand that our accusations were based on incomplete information." Martinez joined Carter on the floor. "What exactly are you beginning to understand?" The hall fell silent again as delegates exchanged glances with each other. Finally, Zethkri spoke in tones that rang like crystal bells. "We are beginning to understand that humanity has become something we never expected. You have become our protectors, whether we asked for it or not. And we are beginning to understand that we have taken your protection for granted," added Coral. "We have complained about your methods while benefiting from your results." Commander Buzz spread his wings slightly in what seemed to be a gesture of submission. "The Thraxian Collective admits that we have not responded to distress calls outside our own territory in over 200 years. We assumed someone else would handle such problems." "Someone else did handle them," Carter said quietly. "We did, because no one else would." The Garden World delegate rustled his leaves sadly. "We remember the committee meetings where we debated responses to various crises. We remember voting to send diplomatic missions instead of rescue fleets. We told ourselves we were being wise and careful, but we were really being cowardly." More delegates began to speak up. The mineral-based beings from the core worlds admitted they had ignored piracy in the outer systems because it did not affect their trade routes. The energy creatures from the Bright Nebula confessed they had dismissed organic suffering as temporary and unimportant. "Every time we chose to look the other way, you chose to act," said a delegate from the machine worlds. "Every time we decided a crisis was not our responsibility, you made it yours. We have criticized you for being warlike while we were being useless." Martinez looked around the hall, seeing shame and recognition on alien faces that had shown only accusation minutes before. "Do you understand what you are asking of us? You want us to continue risking human lives to protect people who call us dangerous. You want us to keep building bases and maintaining fleets while you complain about our military presence." "Yes," Coral said simply. That is exactly what we are asking. Because we now understand that the galaxy is a more dangerous place than we wanted to admit. And we understand that humans are the only race willing to face that danger for the sake of others. Carter walked slowly around the hall, looking at each delegation in turn. And what happens the next time we have to make a hard choice? What happens when we have to destroy a threat before it destroys others? Will you call us warmongers again? No, Zethgri said. His crystal voice carried absolute certainty. We will call you heroes, as we should have done from the beginning. The chamber erupted in sounds of agreement. Alien voices in dozens of languages expressed support and gratitude. The translation systems worked overtime to convert the noise into understandable words. When the noise died down, Carter spoke again. The choice is still yours. We did not ask to be the galaxy's guardians. That role was given to us by your inaction and our response to it. If you want us to continue that role, then you need to accept what it means. What does it mean? Asked Commander Buzz. It means humans will continue to carry weapons, because sometimes weapons are needed to protect innocent people. It means we will continue to build military bases, because rapid response saves lives. It means we will continue to fight when others will not, because someone has to stand between the predators and their prey. Martinez stepped forward. It also means that when we act to save lives, you will support us instead of condemning us. When we make hard choices, you will trust that we are trying to do the right thing. When we ask for help, you will provide it instead of forming committees to study the request. And it means that some of you need to start taking responsibility for your own defense, Carter added. Humanity cannot protect the entire galaxy forever. Other races need to build their own rescue ships and train their own peacekeepers. We will help you, but we cannot do everything alone. The delegates began discussing among themselves in excited voices. Plans were suggested for joint training programs and shared defense responsibilities. The mood in the hall had completely changed from accusation to cooperation. Coral spoke for all of them when she said, "We accept these terms, Ambassador Carter. We accept that humanity has earned the right to defend the galaxy in whatever way seems necessary. We also accept that we have been poor allies and worse friends." Carter nodded slowly. Then let us begin again, not as accusers and accused, but as partners in building a safer galaxy for everyone. The session ended not with condemnation, but with applause. Human and alien voices joined together in agreement. The motion to condemn humanity was never formally withdrawn, because it was never formally proposed. In the months that followed, requests for human assistance increased by 23%. 3 new species applied to join the mutual